talking about systems and things that are in place within the game that make no damn sense. The wonderful thing called VAR, people. VAR. Yes. We've clearly every team has experienced some hardship with VAR this season, especially this season. But over the last few years, VAR has not been fit for purpose in many people's eyes. But recently, you've had the show, Mic'd Up with Michael Owen, and you had Howard Webb on there explaining some very controversial decisions throughout the season. The biggest one being Arsenal and Newcastle's game where the goal was allowed, and he spoke through the decisions and why they decided to allow the goal. Fine, but because of the backlash, you've got Michael Owen coming out calling the media scumbags for questioning the show and saying that basically they're accusing of finding whatever negative thing they can find, they'll find it and write about it. LB, do you think Owen is right to call this out, or are the media and journalists right to call out these refs and call out the fact that you're not challenging Howard Webb on anything that he's saying, just accepting it?
Well, listen, if people want to sit there and say that they disagree with, the referee decision, then and obviously Michael Owen maybe does agree with the referee decision, then obviously he's not going to question Howard Webb, and you're going to wonder why he's not questioning him. People have a right to question the referee. People have a right to question why Howard Webb's saying this and he's not saying that, and therefore people have a right to challenge Michael Owen. I think Michael Owen's probably seen his arse a little bit because he's probably protective of his media image and he don't want to be attacked. But he's took a show which is at the moment, it's heated in that sort of situation. So listen, I think that's a bit of nonsense, to be honest with you, bro. The mic'd up show, I think it's a little bit of like a pointless thing, because I don't think we necessarily need Howard Webb explaining shit. You know what I mean? I think what fans want is just access to the VAR conversations, right? In my opinion, after the game, put it all on the internet, put it on a portal on the Premier League website, and after the game, 90 minutes after the game, you can go on and you can listen to every single VAR interaction, right? And then maybe if they want to do a show and speak about some interesting ones, fair dues. We don't really need Howard Webb coming on the show explaining that they made a mistake. If they made a mistake, we all know he's made a mistake. What benefit is it him standing there, pretty embarrassing, saying, yeah, we made a mistake. We all know you made a mistake. Maybe some of the contentious ones, because another thing that needs to happen is if people are calling out VAR, you need to learn the rules. I see a lot of people on Twitter chatting about the rules and don't even know what they're talking about half the time. So some of the more like sort of interesting ones, maybe you can go on there and explain that. But to be honest, I think people just want to listen to the VAR and how they got to the decision, because Rory probably won't agree with this, but the Newcastle goal, for example, once you listen to it, I think you can come to an understanding of why they might have come to that decision, even if you disagreed with the foul being a foul or whatever. You can sort of understand how we maybe have come to that conclusion. We don't need Howard Webb standing there explaining to us that the referee didn't think it was a foul. We obviously know he didn't think it was a foul, otherwise he would have given a bloody foul. So I just think it's a little bit of a PR exercise. I think Howard Webb's taken over control of the referees and is maybe focusing on the wrong things, in my opinion. He's come in this year and he's like, we're going to do yellow cards galore for dissent. We're going to do it for time wasting. We're going to add a load of time on. I'm going to admit, right? I tell you what I would have done, If I was in Howard Webb's shoes, I would have gone into the referee office, and I said, right, we're not introducing no more rules. You know what I mean? We're not doing none of this extra time, 10 minutes. We're not doing this booking everyone that comes to speak to the referee. No, what we're doing is we're going to focus on our decisions, and every game, every key decision, we're going to get in the office on a Monday and we're going to go through it and we're going to scrutinize every decision. We're going to up the game. I just think he's come in there and I think he's been a bit arrogant, in my opinion. I think he's gone in there, Billy Big Bollocks, and thought, yeah, I'm going to change this, change that. I'm going to do the TV show. And he's been let down because the referees have made some poor calls. So I just think it's a PR exercise, personally.
Yeah. Fair enough. And Rory, obviously you're an Arsenal fan, so this obviously hits you more than probably some other fans, but hearing how they explained and how Howard Webb tried to break down their decision that they come to you, how do that make you feel? And do you agree that this is just a needless exercise right now and you're just making it worse?
Yeah, I think the show is them trying to make themselves look transparent when they're not, because they could be very transparent by just giving us all of the audio straight away and letting us make our own judgment. Why does it need to take 10 days? Only hear the audio from some parts of it. Like, we didn't hear the audio of either of the red card incidents in that game, which for most people were actually worse decisions than the goal itself. Didn't hear the audio of that. So we only hear the audio that they want us to hear, and then you've got like a completely biased opinion of what that audio is, because you've got Howard Webb. I'd even say bring in a foreign ref. Why does it need to be Howard Webb? Bring in a foreign ref and let him go through the audio and say, this is what they did wrong, this is what they should have said. That, that would give at least a bit more insight. And then with that specific goal itself, I could understand most of it. I could understand what they were saying. I could, the one thing I just disagreed with was how they could set, the guy could say, well, there's two hands in his back, but I don't know if it's a push. So there's two hands in his back and Gabriel's flown forwards, but I don't know if it's a push. For me, it's like, well, obviously it was a push. So that's annoying. But the general show itself, I just think, Michael Owen, by the way, coming out calling people scumbags for criticising the show. Why does he think he's the one that they picked for the show? Of all the pundits they could pick, they picked Michael Owen. Why does he sit there and think that they've picked him because he's got great insight and he's a great interviewer? Or no, they've picked him because they know he's the boring bloke that won't say anything out of turn and that will basically just appease Howard Webb. That's why he's there, and that's why people are annoyed. So, yeah, the show's a joke. I watch rugby and I can't believe that, and I think it's just arrogance that they don't look at rugby and go, all of it works so much better in rugby than it does in football, where you have one VAR. They don't need 15 people in the VAR all talking at the same time.
Because that sounds like a mess. Absolute
sounds
mess.
like a mess. They've got one person. They've got the referee on the field who can just look at one of the big screens, doesn't have to run over to a monitor, and they just discuss what they're seeing on the screen at the time. You hear the discussion, they come to a conclusion. Because even as it is, the Chelsea Spurs penalty red card for Romero, it's like the VAR's going, well, I think this is what, as Oliver's going over to the monitor, he's like, well, I think this is what's happened, but you need to make your own decision. And it's like, well, you've already put in his head what you think the decision should be. Just have a conversation. Just be like, this is what I'm seeing. Are you seeing the same thing? Yeah, I think that's what I'm seeing. Job done. It's so unnecessarily overcomplicated, not transparent, and ultimately, I don't think anyone enjoys football more because of it, and that's fundamentally.
Yeah, Rory, I've got to say as well, I don't think this is ever going to work properly because our decisions are so subjective, man. So subjective. Like, you can literally show me a cast iron red card, and you'll find people in the stream who will say it was a decent tackle.
Never a red. Yeah,
but it's true. Happens. It's true. So I think as football fans as well, we've also got to accept that VAR was not brought in to re-referee matches. It was brought in to find clear and obvious errors. So, for example, do you know the Newcastle goal, right? I would have just gone with whatever the on-field decision was, because I think you can argue it either way. I do think Gabriel's gone down soft, and I don't think he's put that much pressure on him. But if the referee would have given a foul on the day, if I was the VAR, I wouldn't have overturned it. I would have stuck with the foul, because I'd be like, that's not clear. It's not clear and obvious. So I think as fans, we've also got to understand that they are going to make calls that we're not going to agree with, because it's a subjective game, right? But they're just making it's too long. They're getting involved too much, and so some of the decisions are just like, you can't really understand it, So I don't know. I never liked it. I was always against it before it came out. I'm against it now. I don't think it'll ever work. People can talk about it's not VAR, it's the people. I don't think it's ever going to work, because no matter what happens, you're always going to get people disagreeing with it. You know what I mean? So I don't know. I
think there's a simpler way to have VAR in football to be effective. Just like look how good the simple goal line technology is. Censoring the ball, censoring the goalposts, over the line, not over the line, boom, done.
Yeah, but that's a binary decision, though, bro. That's a binary call.
But I feel like there are things within the game that, like the offside thing, but is actually fine. Their issue is they're trying to make it too complicated with the lines and like the frames, and that's
they fixed that though, innit, now, KJ, because they've got the new UEFA system for next year.
Yeah, so we can use that. So that's what I mean. There are ways to make it integrated into the sport a lot easier and simpler that is effective. But right now, they're doing way too much, in my opinion.
Again, right? So where I look at rugby, the way it works in rugby is, unless the referee has clearly missed something very obvious, the TMO, which is their VAR, won't intervene unless the referee actually on field asks them to. So he might see something, and as the game carries on, he'll say to them, "Can you just check that for me? Because I think it might have been this." But if he doesn't say that, they won't really look at it, but they'll keep an eye on blatant things. Whereas like LB said, everything is micro-analyzed, and the more VAR has gone on, by the way, the more it's become micro-analyzed. Like, it wasn't like this at the start, where every goal was every single possible thing that might be able to rule it out was looked at. But it's become more and more like that. And unless they properly hold it back to, you only intervene if the ref didn't see what happened, otherwise it goes with his decision, then I think we're just going to keep going and keep going and keep going. And, VAR checks are getting longer, and it's just ruining the sport.
Yeah, I feel you guys. I feel you.